Da Vinci, Obama, and Picasso all have one thing in common with Messi, Maradona, and Saka. They're all left-sided and geniuses. Have you ever noticed that left-footers seem so natural and fluid on the ball? Scientists claim left-footers have a better perception of space. There are two hemispheres of the brain, right and left. The right brain controls the left side of the body, and the left brain controls the right side of the body. Spatial perception, creativity, and intuition, and emotion are controlled by the right brain, which makes left-footed players appear smoother. The left hemisphere is responsible for rational decisions, numbers, and logic. 1 in 5 players are predominantly left-footed. 80% of pros are right-footed. In a study conducted by the University of Oxford, St. Andrews, and Bristol, in conjunction with several Australian institutions, they found that players who favor their left foot have inverted brain hemisphere functions, which give them an extra dose of unpredictability. One of the classic comments you hear when discussing a left-footed player is, "Yes, he's good, but he's very one-footed." It is a strange comment, as right-footers aren't criticized for their inability to use the other foot. Perhaps it is because right-footedness is the dominant side, and thus left-footers look strange. And yes, of course, having the ability to use 2 feet is important, yet it appears that if you were going to choose which foot to use, wouldn't left-footed be the option? Creative genius. If you ask someone to name some of the greatest players in football, you would probably hear the names Diego Maradona, Ferenc Puskas, and Alfredo Di Stefano. If you ask them about some players in recent decades, you may hear names like Pavel Nedved, Raul, Ryan Giggs, Roberto Carlos, Christian Vieri, and Paolo Maldini. What do all these players have in common? Well, they're left-footed. Lionel Messi needs no introduction, and the pressure on him to perform is the highest. He proved his talent time and time again, and is undoubtedly the GOAT. Unless maybe you watched Pele or Maradona. His Argentinian teammate, Angel Di Maria, has been exceptional in the past decade, playing a key role in World Cup and Champions League success. Both are left-footed. David Silva and Mesut Ozil, two of the world's best of the last few years, were lefties. Memories of Robin van Persie and Arjen Robben destroying Spain in the World Cup was a double left-footed attack. It was a moment of creative genius, sheer brilliance, and evidence of his creative brain. Daley Blind, their teammate, assisted 2 of their goals with 2 delightful left-footed passes. All 3 are left-footed. Phil Foden and Bukayo Saka killing it every week in the Premier League and now showing the world how good they can be in Europe. Cole Palmer's Chelsea number 10 shown this season, scoring lots of vital goals while still being creative, skillful, and intelligent, possessing great vision and awareness. El Clasico's future superstars Endrick and Yamal treat every single game like it is a kickabout. In fact, all the players listed have these traits. So is it a left-footed thing? Do they all share a natural creative gene? It does appear that when we think of some of these great left-footed players, we conjure words and images such as artistry, creativity, and genius. Many decades ago, football was characterized by rigid systems, which most often build their framework on symmetry. Therefore, left-sided players played on the left and right-footed players on the right. As coaches became more creative, however, players were given more license to roam and create. One only has to think of Rinus Michels' Total Football at Ajax to see what positional freedom and fluidity produced. Yet it is Diego Maradona who is arguably the best player ever, and his talent of dribbling, of beating players and creating and scoring goals secured the World Cup for his country Argentina, made Napoli one of Italy's best sides, and made him one of the best ever. He was one of the most creative geniuses football has seen, possessing a character and determination to fulfill his potential. Was it his left-footedness which made his talent so great?
We seem to accept that a left-footed player will offer something different, and according to research, it appears left-footed players do actually have a gene that makes them more creative and inventive than right-footed players. In a study conducted by the Universities of Oxford, St. Andrews, and Bristol in conjunction with several Australian institutions, they found that players who favor their left foot have inverted brain hemisphere functions, which gives them an extra dose of unpredictability. As science shows, the secret is in their DNA. The research is certain that a left-footed player's originality can help the player develop ideas and solutions during games. They also give credit to left-footers for inventing new tricks, flips, and skills. So it begs the question, why there aren't more left-footed players in the game? As with always, it comes down to youth development, a particularly relevant issue when looking at England. Many people have pointed to England's football's inability to produce creative players. English football has struggled to produce creative, skillful players because we have had a culture which has prioritized strength, bravery, and doggedness over craft, skill, and intelligence. English football has suffered and struggled to compete with the top nations because of what the FA promoted, because of their theories on the game. While the Dutch, Brazilians, and Argentinians were producing skillful attacking players, playing a brand of football which was expansive and creative, England was building its foundation on rigidity and functionality. Thus, the type of players required for this style denied opportunities for creative players. Now, when we look at the attributes of a left-footed player, their increased creativity and inventiveness, then we can see why the country has struggled to produce any left-footed geniuses. Could this cultural problem be the reason for England's lack of creativity? It does appear that there has been a certain neglect of the left-footed player in England. Before Cole Palmer, Foden, and Saka, can you remember any great English left-footers outside of left-backs? Why hadn't English football ever produced a left-footed player of a world-class caliber? Well, it has to do with how they are developed. In England, the development of a left footer is rare. The reason appears to be because from a young age, having a left footer on the side is not common. Perhaps only one player in the team is left-footed. Thus, these players are most often played on the left side, either in defense or on the wing. It is a limiting experience for creativity. When we look at players like Lionel Messi and Arjen Robben, we see left-footed players who play on the right, allowing them to come inside and play more centrally. At Ajax, they seek left-footed players to play in the creative positions of midfield, as they believe that left-footed players tend to be more creative. Just look at Daley Blind's impact on Holland and Ajax these past few years. The left-footed creative playmaker Rafael van der Vaart came through their system. Yet in England, left-footed means playing on the left, and for a long time, that was pretty much it. While playing out on the left side, many left-footed players are not as involved in the game as others. They are restricted to the channel, with coaches denying them the chance to move inside and join the play. When they are in possession, they will often look to move on the outside of a player, as they will seek to move on their favorite side. Yet what if 20 years ago, English youth developers sought to replicate how Ajax and La Masia positioned their left-footed players, forcing their recruitment to find a balance between left and right footers? Perhaps English football could produce more creative players in yesteryear. If Foden was developed 20 years ago, he may have been shunted onto left back instead of in the number 10 role or coming off the right. Imagine if the left footer was placed in the center of midfield or out on the right. Imagine how much more of the ball they would have. Imagine what positions they could take up, where they could run with the ball. Ironically, English youth development has produced two of the best left footers in the game, Ryan Giggs and Gareth Bale. Yet they aren't English. Both are Welsh lads who were nurtured by Manchester United and Southampton, two academies where skill, creativity, and attacking flair were and are promoted. Had they moved elsewhere, would they have become the players we know today? Unfortunately, too many academies would put their left footer at left back and show a distrust of their skill and creativity. By doing this, we create functional, robotic players, and our creative left footer fails to nurture the attributes which could help them become a great player. Nature may give these left footers the tools for greatness, yet it is nurture which can enhance or deny them. Both Giggs and Bale were fortunate to have youth coaches and then managers who helped nurture their creativity and skill. Giggs excelled under Ferguson as a winger and a central midfielder, and Bale's development under Harry Redknapp allowed him to showcase his attacking talent. Bale may not have developed into the player he is now had he been forced to just be a left back. This pigeonholing of left footers, denying them the chance to be more expansive and creative, to use their skill and ingenuity, has denied English football the development of true creative talent. If it is true that a left footer does possess more creativity and expression than right-footed players, then coaches and academies should be seeking to bring out the best of these players and not pigeonholing them into positions out wide, on the left of the pitch. It is England's rigid style of football which has limited the development of these key players and which has ultimately stunted their development. English football education has changed. To meet fluid game situations, we need to develop players who understand how and when to change roles and who can play in multiple positions. This is what is happening now with the current generation. Academies and coaches who are willing to allow players and their teams to experiment and be creative away from safe fixed formations and results-driven outcomes. Although Ashley Cole and Leighton Baines have proven to be excellent fullbacks, could they have been better had they been played on the right wing or even in central midfield? Gareth Barry started as a left back, Yet, he was moved to central midfield during his time at Aston Villa and became one of England's most accomplished central midfielders. It was proof that he could do more than be a left back, yet needed a manager with bravery and imagination to experiment and provide an opportunity. Middlesbrough have produced two excellent left-footed wingers in Stuart Downing and Adam Johnson. Yet while Downing is seen more as a classic winger, Johnson has benefited more from playing on the right, coming inside on his left. They could have just played him at left back, yet sought to enhance his attacking talent, not deny it. We should be happy that Daniel Sturridge, one of England's most creative left-footed players in the last 20 years, was not moved to fill a left-back role when he was younger, as we could have lost another player to the system. Hopefully, this trend of English left-footers continues to rise. The English national team is improving all the time, and football education is improving in real time. Hopefully, the culture of football in England can catch on too. Are you left-footed? Were you shoehorned into positions just because you were left-footed? Let us know in the comments below.